So let's get started. My name is Dr. Jennifer Mott. I'm a team-based learning trainer consultant, and I've been doing all my classrooms using team-based learning for about 2 years, and I've been doing team-based learning for about 3. And I teach mechanical engineering at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. So most of my stuff is all engineering based, but it's a good on the technical side. Just a little background on team-based learning. It was started by a business professor, and it is very, very big in medical schools, pharmaceutical schools, nursing schools, business and law schools, and it's getting more and more traction, and more people are using it in humanities, science. So most of the examples, if you were to go online, are going to be from the medical side of things. So if that's what you're doing, then awesome. If not, then hopefully I can help you out on maybe some of the other side of things on engineering side. Okay. So why team-based learning? Well, you guys are here for this inverted classroom workshop and conference. So you're here probably because you want to learn how to use class time effectively. So this is one method of doing that. Team-based learning is designated by having high quality in-class activities and having students come to class prepared. We want to have student engagement in the classroom, right? We don't just want them sitting there falling asleep, lectures. So what are we going to do instead? And then what's maybe not unique to team-based learning, but one of the aspects of team-based learning is that you can actually work on these soft skills without cutting contact. And by these soft skills, I mean teamworking, problem solving, critical thinking, communicating ideas. So where team-based learning falls into everything here is we have, it's a little bit of problem-based learning. So if you're familiar with that, using problems to learn. A little bit of independent study, in that we do expect them to do individual work. And it's mostly then collaborative or group learning, where they're working together in these teams and learning from each other through this process of solving problems. Why teams? So at least in engineering, it reflects the modern work environment, and I'm guessing in most work environments. Teams can actually accomplish more than the individual, and we'll see that a little bit later, and I've got data that shows that as well. That as a team, you know this, even just within your classes, you see this, that a problem a student couldn't solve by their own, say in a particular amount of time, together with another student would probably be able to do it because they are working together, they're sharing information, they're sharing knowledge. And teamwork makes learning fun, right? It will be fun in the classroom. All right, so that was a very brief overview. No idea what team-based learning is yet. But what I've found and what I've discovered and what is big in the team-based learning world is that to actually understand it, you've got to do it. So you shouldn't be surprised. This is what we're going to do now. So the first thing we do is we're going to do team formation. So one of the key things is that it's diverse and instructor created. And diverse, I mean by expertise or area of expertise. So in my classes, I'll do maybe majors, or I'll do, if it's a class with a lot of prereqs, you pick which prereq is your most, that you feel most confident with, what topic, and so then each team basically has somebody who's an expert with that. They're permanent for the entire term. I'm in quarters, that's why it says quarter. And they're actually on the larger side of things, so they're usually 5 to 7. I find the sweet spot is about 5 actually for my classes. I tried 4, and while it worked, it was just a lot more work for myself because I had about 3 more teams than I usually do. But 5, I think, is the sweet spot. Then we're going to go through what's called the readiness assurance process and then applications. So, teams. In the morning session, I did it by how much experience you've had doing flipped classroom. Do I have anybody with like extensive experience with flipped classroom? Okay, we're going to skip that one then. We're going to do it a different way. We're going to do it by area of expertise. So if you're in engineering, because I like engineering because that's first, then you're going to line up first. Do we have any engineers? Any? Yes, go ahead. So if you're in engineering, you're going to start over here and you're going to line up. All right. So engineering, and then we'll do math or statistics. Next. So no, just in a long line. We're doing a long line. So math or statistics. And then we'll do our other sciences, our hard sciences. So your chemistry, physics, biology, etc. And what do I have left? Evaluator. And anybody else who's left is at the end. Your expertise is as you define it to be. What are you, sir? IT. IT? Okay, good. At the end. All right. Okay, so let's count. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So we're going to do, I think, 4 teams. We have 4 teams of 5. So we're going to just count off. So make sure you're kind of in your order. So we were distributing our skill set. So we're going to count off. So
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 4 teams.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, so we've got team 1, team 2, team 3, and team 4. So find your seat, find your table, get your stuff.
You won't be inhibited by the engineering.
Yeah, we gotta keep you separate.
No, we're just pointing out that one of the teams won't have an engineer.
Oh, one,
so they'll probably
oh,
be the most successful.
perhaps with this sort of thing, yes.
Wait, we got paired in a random thing last.
Well, that's pretty funny. All right, how are we at? So we've got, you guys decided to pick the back of the room. That's not where I put you. That's okay. There you go, team 4. Okay, so on your table, which I'm gonna have to distribute a few more. So you guys are teams of 6. On your table, beside your team number, is a 4-sheet. It opens like a booklet. Let's see. One of you guys needs to go over there. Who got the wrong number? Who should be team 3 instead of team 4? Somebody. This team only has 4 people. Redistribute. Yeah, sorry. It was the idea is that the teams are also equal number as close as possible. Okay, so the first step actually in this readiness assurance process is actually this pre-reading or pre-assignment, right? So a lot of people flip classrooms, they'll do videos. I always do readings because I'll explain later why I only do readings and how it works. But in front of you, there is a 4-page handout. There you go. And this is always done before class, but because of the way these workshops are, it's really tough to hand you guys a homework assignment. So for the next 10 minutes, I'm actually going to have you guys just silently read, skim through. We're all highly educated people, so skim through this best you can, about 10 minutes, gather what you can about team-based learning. This is never done in the classroom, but for the purpose of the workshop, we're doing it. I will be quiet then for 10 minutes, if it's possible. have one of those. There we go. Yeah, do you have a question? I can answer a question now.
So, it says if a team doesn't get the right answer, then they can go back and discuss and scratch off.
Mhm.
Eventually, everybody will have the right answer, presumably by scratching off every single thing.
Right.
So, if you are able to scratch off every single thing, then how can you appeal the wrong answer?
We'll talk about all that. Yeah, that's a very detailed question. Yes, we will talk about all that. But this is what the scratch-off cards look like. And so, first of all, I give 5 points for the points that you get goes down by the number of scratches. So there's reason to not just guess. And then the way the appeals work is that you have to identify an ambiguity. So you would still say, well, I thought that A was right versus B, and this is why. So you can still, yeah. So it's not that, you know, the answer's 6 or 10. It's more of a, well, I thought the reading said it this way. This is how I understood it. And that's where the ambiguity was. So it forces them to go back into the reading and understand what's going on, as opposed to just like some numeric answer. All right. People, looks like people are, this team sounds done over here. Okay. How are we doing? Okay, looks like are we good? Okay, so, readiness assurance process, we've already started our pre-reading. What's our next step? The IRAT, TRAT. Okay, so, in your folders, on your table, this is how I pass them out to my students as well. There is a readiness assessment test, and we are going to do it individually. So this is a quiz on the reading. Individual, no. So put your readings away as a good student, good faculty. put your notes away, put your things away. And it's only 7 questions, and I'll give you, probably need less than a minute for that, but we'll give up to 10 minutes for this one. It should take less if people are, did you get one? You need a pen. Is everybody finished? Looks like everybody's done. Okay, then we'll stop. For my classes, I usually leave a timer or whatnot. For 10 questions, I give them usually about 15 minutes. Kind of gives them an idea. A little longer if short calculations are involved. All right, so next step is this TRAT. So I'm using what's called an immediate feedback assessment technique, or an IFAT card. And how it works is it looks like a little scratch-off sheet if you've never seen a little. This is not the Powerball winning one, right? Okay. I wish, right? If you knew the answers, where they were. So for number 1, there's A, B, C, D options. If you think the answer is A, you scratch off A. If there's a star underneath, it's the correct answer. You get 5 points. If there's no star, it means it's the wrong answer and you need to try again. If you take 2 scratches, it's 3 points. 3 scratches is 1 point. And 4 scratches is 0 points. So there's no benefit to guessing, as I tell my students. And as you will soon find out that the person who's scratching it has a lot of pressure underneath them, right on top of them. So pick wisely who it is. So I hand these out 1 per team. So you're going to redo this quiz as a team and figure out what the answers are. As you see, I always put my scores on the board. So we'll do that again. I know nobody wants to take it. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. So there you go. This is exactly what my students do over here. They look at it. They check to see if they can look through it. You cannot. Also note that the star location is actually pretty small and it moves location, so you can't just like try and like accidentally scratch the wrong one to see if it's there. So I do, as a side note, give my students, each team, about one really big mistake where they've messed up, and I pretty much check their work, and they're like, we've all circled A, we accidentally scratched B, and I'll give them the points. Yeah, and then I do my questions like that. Yep. Always following good multiple choice rules, though, right? Which say that if you do numerical answer, right, they have to be in order from largest to smallest. I don't know if you, and so I will actually then move my questions around to fit the right patterns and stuff. So there's some massaging involved. All right, go ahead, get started. Oh.
And trying to figure out which one. Okay, there we go.
I give it to you this way though because it says. I know. No, I never give my students the number. First of all.
Because they're going to game it.
Right.
They're going to do any action.
And but I give it to you that way because it has the company name on it, and so that's why.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So. They still have to stay away. This is still closed note, closed book. Yeah. Yeah. I know, I've had some. Right, exactly. So, no, this is all closed book, closed note part of it. So, here, I'll just. I like how you're really trying to see, though. That's, yeah, yes.
Do you have students sit and read?
No, I never have them in class. No. Actually, the most painful part of my whole experience, not whole experience, but the whole TBL thing is actually the like 10 minutes where they're taking that quiz, and I'm just like, there's nothing. Everything outside. I only do that for the workshops because unless it's like where you've signed up before and it's so like for the team-based learning conference that I'll talk about briefly at the end, you sign up for workshops and they actually sent out all the pre-readings and you were expected to do them and then come in and do the workshop. But it's so tough on these workshops that I just do it in there.
He got C. What else do we have?
B.
I got B.
Yeah, because not necessarily writing.
B. Consensus B. Yeah.
Right, when it's stressful and then they're like, yeah. Did you scratch the wrong one?
No.
Oh. Okay. All right. You also can't. You gotta take it away from the kid. Scratch whatever he wants, no matter what. Right? Like, This is a team score, though. Everybody gets the same score. So if you mess it up, then everybody's gonna be mad at you. Everybody's score depends on you doing it correctly.
I think it was about the being able to defend and explain why you picked not so much the right answer.
Right, because everyone's doing the same thing.
Yeah, like I wanted to say one of those two, but I wasn't really sure which one, so I went with A. That was actually my thinking.
I think it's more about the student than the teacher.
So application activities, that's the stuff they're gonna be in the grades, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then that's about like everyone's doing the same ones so that they can
Yeah.
care equally.
You guys skipped 5 too. You guys skipped number 5.
Yeah.
We also took number 1.
Is that a common thing?
No, those are the 2 problematic ones though, so I'm not surprised.
Right,
struggling with.
exactly.
And that's why I circled that one. But at the same time, I've been wrong before.
My first
Pretty sure number 5 is a plant question.
A plant question? What do you mean by plant question? You're gonna appeal that one?
Yeah, we're gonna appeal that one. Yes.
Yes, we are.
And you're not leaving the room until you see our point of view.
That's not how the appeals work.
Well, I don't think it's because I didn't see
So we had 2 that were 2,
3s.
and then everything else were 5. So there's 7 questions, 35 minus 4, so we had 31.
All right. No. Yes, this now you got to go back to the reading and justify your answer.
34?
Who's got?
34?
33.
33. Let's see.
Yeah.
We're minus 2.
Yeah, you missed 1, so it's minus 2. Yep. 33.
Still we're doing What scores an A?
What scores what? Those are just one of many that you would do in the class. So I typically have the T-RAT worth about 10% of their grade. Total, like all of them. The individual is worth about 15% of their grade, actually. It's actually heavy on the individual side, which I think helps make sure that everybody actually participates, right?
Collect this first then.
I would collect this now, after you finish all of it.
Okay, so how do you know he didn't change his answer?
Oh, I will show you how they don't change their answers.
Okay.
I have a bubble sheet that they do.
Oh, okay.
I actually collect, so they take it individually. I collect their answers. They
You
keep.
said the bubble, they
I
can keep this. Okay, so they
Yeah.
can't change the bubble.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So we ruined the test by writing it.
No, then I collect that, and then yeah, for next person. Yeah, for the next person you would, but I find it, but I find it nice because they, especially in engineering or whatever. Like I asked a question about state point and the vapor dome, and so they're drawing on their exam, like they're drawing on their, like in engineering, it's important to be able to draw out stuff and that. And so I let them draw all over it, and I collect it at the end. So
individual should weigh heavier than team.
I what?
Individual score should weigh higher than team score.
Right. Yeah.
Just to make them more responsible.
Right. Yeah. So it's about 70% individual and 30% on the team side of things. And I also tell them it's in my syllabus first day of class, and I remind them before the midterm and final that unless they pass the individual side of things, I don't pass the class. So, and I have failed students who have failed the individual side of things, but would get a passing grade in the sense that they get a D with the team stuff. But it's flat out like I don't because I need to know individually if you know it, and so the team at the end is really a bump.
I didn't know it, and then I learned it. I know it.
Right.
So should I really fail?
Exactly. But
So this is why I
right.
quizzes before lecture that are based on reading or stuff, because I feel like I'm asking students to respond to things that I haven't given them a chance to ask me about.
So what I will do is I will actually answer questions before, so I'll give them a chance to ask questions. I have office hours beforehand. It's nothing like I'm not trying to hinder their learning there. And it's also I consider the IRAT TRAT to be a low level learning, so more on the understanding. It's a low, and so then we once we got that background base, and my finals and midterms are all based on higher level things. Oh, I still give exams. I still give a midterm and a final. Yeah.
So the 15 and the 20% would be all the IRATs or 15% of their final.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, and then the midterm I do about 15% because I figure all the IRATs together. I go about a midterm. Most of my colleagues do 2 midterms, so I figure with quizzes and 1 midterm, it kind of balances out in terms of assessment, that they're not overly assessed. And then my finals usually worth about 30%. So it's just significant on this individual being able to do the problem solving on their own.
Each midterm you make 15%?
About 15%, yeah. That's about. And then the remainder makes up from applications and if I were to do homework or if sometimes I have a lab or something. So the percentage is based on the particular class, but that's my general rule of thumb is all the IRATs together should equal about a midterm in terms of weighting. So, and I usually actually drop 1 because I do no makeups, no earlies, and no redos. So you have to be in class. So I've got students who have job interviews or are sick or whatever, and I say, you drop 1. Instead of 6, you only have out of 5. And so it just takes care of that whole burden on me to have. Yeah. About every other week. So in 10 weeks, I have a quarter. I'll do, the most I've ever done was 9, which was really, really a lot. I try to do about 6. 6 to 7, yeah, depending on.
When you do these, do you have labs too?
I do, but the lab is usually completely different. I do it completely separate, yeah. Okay, everybody else done? Are you guys finished? Yep. Okay. All right, let's figure out the rest of the points. Team 1, how many points? 28. You want a challenge? All right. Team 4, what'd you guys do? Oh, hang on a second. Okay. Some of my colleagues like to do 4, 2. Okay. How are we doing? We gotta get finished. Time crunch here, people.
Can you penalize them for being absent?
I don't usually. I know faculty. I know faculty who really do give a time limit on this because you could go around in circles forever. I know. So you guys are doing. Oh, you're in the middle. Okay, it's typical. All right. Good. Oh, all of them. All of them. Oh. Okay. We'll talk about it. How many points do you guys have?
So there were 7 questions. We got 5 of them totally right, and then 1 of them totally wrong, and 1 of them.
So 28? Yeah, 28. Okay. So you're not completely at the bottom. All right. So this is what I do in my classes. I put the scores actually usually on a board. I have them actually come up and write it up there. It kind of is fun for a little bit of inter-team competition. I've got teams who get. I have 10 questions usually, so they're always getting 50s, and I got this. I've got the teams where are just like they are so proud to put that 50 up there. So let's go over a couple things for this one. Other scoring schemes, if you want to do out of 4 points, I know some people who do that. Or if you had 5 scratches, you could do 5, 3, 2, 1, 0. So there's lots of options with that. Okay, so here is our 5-step process, right? We did the pre-assignment. Yes. Yes. Yes, yes. Right, this is exactly how it goes. So pre-assignment, which as I was asked, I never actually do in class. This is actually always out of class, but circumstances as they are for the workshop, I do it in class. Then we get the IRAT, the individual, the team 1, IRAT, TRAT. Next is appeals and the clarification lecture. I heard some people talking about appeals. So which ones do you guys want to talk about? Number 5. I'm not surprised. Okay, I gotta find my. Can I borrow your sheet real quick? Because I put mine away. Okay, so number 5. What's the most important purpose of the readiness assurance process? The answer was initial individual preparation preparation into true readiness. And I think most people went with A as the wrong one, right? Which is hold students individually accountable for coming to class prepared. So that is an important one. I'm not going to deny it. But the most important through the whole process, because it is a whole 5-step process that starts with a pre-reading, individual, team, the appeals, which we're kind of into, and the clarification lecture, is that in turn, it turns this part, this pre-reading assignment or pre-lecture, online lecture, it turns it into a true readiness to be able to apply the course concepts. And that is the actual, because it's a whole process, I think that's where people got caught up, is that the whole process is a 5-step process that takes kind of an individual preparation into a true readiness and able to move on to the next step, which is our applications, which we'll go in a second. Any other questions on it? Okay, and number 1 was kind of, but you guys seem to be okay with that one. All right, where's my thing? All right, so just a couple of things before we move on to applications is I always get questions about logistics. How do you do this in the classroom? Okay, so a couple of things. One is my reading assignment. I do reading assignments. Full confession, I don't make videos, okay? And you don't have to make videos. All right, so I have engineers who don't like to read. So what do I do? I have what's called a supplementary notes or a reading guide, and I have an objectives handout that I go through with my students on how to use at the beginning of the quarter or term. So my objective handouts look something like this. So this is for, I divide my course into different topics, right? So this is module 5, this is for heat transfer. At the end of the objectives is actually their reading assignment. And any other information that they need to know, if there's any homework, and I have practice problems. But the big thing on here that I tell them about is that I've got this thing called facts and concepts and then skills. The facts and concepts are more what I would call your lower level. It's your terminology, understanding of a couple different things. I flat out tell my students, this is what I'm going to focus on for the IRAT, TRAT. And then for the midterm and final, I focus on skills, and skills is what we do with applications. First day of class, and I remind them throughout, do not ask me what's going to be on the midterm because I already told you. All right, if you want to know what I'm going to test you on, this is what I did. And I literally will go through this after I write my IRAT, TRAT, and I will go through and I will see, did I hit all these? Did my question actually hit one of these? If it didn't, how do I need to adjust it? If I skipped one of these, then I adjust in my head, is that something that's really important? So I have to make a question for it. Or I figure how to work it into an application. Or is it something that I'm like, you know what, not important, and I delete it. So these kind of go through a revision with that. The skills then are my applications, have to deal with things of applying all that knowledge there. Okay. This is actually, if you're interested in the format of how I did this, is from it's from a book called Backwards Design. So if you're ever by McTeague and I forgot the other guy's last name, but they wrote a book. I went to a workshop with them. It's called Backwards Design, how to write learning objectives and then do your stuff through that. All right, so that's my learning objectives, and then I have what I call my supplementary notes. Here they are. And they are basically an outline of the chapter. They would be what my lecture notes would be. Mine are all typed up. All the equations are typed up. But what's unique about these is that I have space in here for them to answer questions. So that they're not just looking at my notes and then just being like, okay, whatever. But what's also unique is that I tell them exactly where to go. I say chapter 11.2 on this page, top of this page to the bottom of this page. My students, engineering students, I've heard from other experts that they will not read more than 20 pages at a time. They will read 20 pages and then they will stop. So the solution to that is to tell them exactly which 20 pages to read. And I tell them at the beginning too, like I will tell you exactly, do not just open the textbook and just mindlessly read. I want them to know what's important. I want them to go to it, right? My students, especially at Cal Poly, they're really, really good at the lecture. They've mastered it. They're top students. They know how to work them. They know how to work the lecture. They know how to gather the information. They know how, from my verbal cues, what's important. And since they no longer have my verbal cues in a lecture, I have to give them other cues as to what's important. And this is how I do it. So what I will also do is I will scaffold how they do this. So in my earlier classes, my lower level classes, I will actually assign the supplementary notes as homework, where they turn it in to me filled in at the IRAT. And I go through and I just check off that they did it. So I'll do that for a couple of them, and then I'll let them bring it in, filled in to use on the IRAT, TRAT, and then I will say, now you can only have a piece of paper and a piece of paper with handwritten notes on it. So I will slowly teach them how to have more information, how to gather the information and summarize it for themselves. My senior level classes, they only get a sheet of notes. They go straight into that. I actually had students who are like, oh, you know, what should we do? You know, are you going to collect these? Like, no. You guys have graduated past that. You guys are seniors. You know how to do it. And so I give them a little bit of what'd you call it? Adultness. They can go in there, right? They're growing up. Okay, so that's that. And so next, so that's my reading assignment and objectives handout. The IFAT cards. They're from Epstein Educational. They're about $200, less than $200 for 8 patterns, and you get 1,000 of them. So that ends up being about 17 cents a piece. I did the math one time. And so you get a pattern, and you basically just have to fit your quiz to the pattern. I love doing that. I love the non-technical side of it, the like non-technology. To me, that's really cool. Okay, students do not keep any of their RAT materials. At the end of my clarification lecture, I collect everything. They do not walk out of there with any of my materials. I reuse it. Actually, through my appeals, which we'll talk about in a second, I actually improve my questions. So the more I do it, the fewer appeals I actually have, and my questions are better. And so there's another reason that I don't let them collect anything. If they complain that they need it for studying, I let them take notes off of it. If they're like, you know what, if there was a plot on there or something, I actually saw that in one of my students. I had a nice plot, and she actually put it in on her equation sheet. She was like, I like that plot, so she put it on there and labeled it. So I let them do that, but I don't let them keep it at all. So examples. I have not seen any of my students take pictures. So, they take pictures of other stuff, that is true, but I've not, I don't know, I told them it's an exam. It's not, you know, it's like finals. You wouldn't let them take a picture of the final exam kind of a thing. So, midterms are different because, you know, you return them back. So here's just an example of a RAT question, this is examples. The first part is my IRAT. This is again this is from thermodynamics. And if you don't know thermodynamics, don't be frightened by this, but you'll see what kind of questions that I ask, kind of like, which equation would I use? What's the definition of this? Which the true statement about entropy? And so what I'm looking for is a general understanding of entropy, so that when we go to the applications and we talk about what entropy is and how you use it, I know they've got that baseline knowledge, okay, of terminology. They're already speaking my language with that. So that's a question there. Oh, and then the other thing I was going to hand out here, I think it's the next one. Right, so just the first 2 pages is the IRAT, TRAT, and then after that's applications, which we'll talk about. So here's the other handout for you guys. All right, so how I do the individual side of things. In the envelope or folder like what you guys had, I actually also have a bubble sheet. I usually do half size because I do try to save trees as much as I print. I actually print their name on it already, so they're in their teams. They find the one with their name on it, and then they fill up this bubble sheet. I collect the bubble sheet before I hand out the IFAT cards. So those come to me. While they're doing the TRAT, I actually have an app on my phone. It's called ZipGrade. And I will actually scan in and grade all the individual ones. I have about 36 students. I can do it in the time that they do. I've actually done up to 40 students in the time that they can do the IFAT card. It's called ZipGrade. ZipGrade. And it's on there. Right. It's about $10 or you can buy a subscription, but to me the $10 was just worth it. Not to worry about it. Printable bubble sheets for the students. I scan them. But this is why I scan them while I do this. Is what happens is I get this at the end, this item analysis that tells me the percentage of students that got it right. And so when I'm looking at doing the clarification lecture, and just as I knew that you guys probably going to have problems with number 5 because I've done this one a bit, and I saw it on the team one, so I can look at the team one and see where people had problems. But it's nice to know individually, number 1 had 56, number 6 had only 33% get it right. And so I know that that's something that I should probably talk about right then and there. And then what's nice is then if I click on a particular one, so this was question number 1, 56% got it right, C, but the most answer that they got wrong was D. So I know that there's something in D that was problematic that they didn't quite understand, and so we will talk about it in depth. And that is why I love this program, because I can do it in time, real time, and my students are always very impressed by it. So they love it. And sometimes I'll even tell them like what the total percentage is. I'm like, you guys are great. You guys all got 88% on this. They're like, wow, you guys got, they're very impressed by this. Download the scores, itemization report, all that kind of stuff. I upload my class list, and then that's how I can download and print all my quiz sheets. I've done it in the past where I gave them a number and had them memorize it and fill it in themselves. I don't care what grade level you have, they cannot handle that. I always had like a few of them who couldn't remember their number, and so didn't fill it out at all. Remembered their number wrong, and it was somebody else's, and it was just a mess. Now I just print it out and give it to them. And if they do the wrong one, then that's their problem. So, an online option, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, it's called Learning Catalytics. It costs about $12 per student. I've heard good things about this. I have not tried it, but if you want to do an online app thing. So, questions on the IRET, TRET part of things of that logistics-wise. I had a question in the last one. Our group was talking about this, about how they could do the individual one online before class and the team one inside of class, and I'm going to tell you why I do not recommend that. Okay? Because notice that when you did this, you didn't immediately individual then team. This is where the learning happens, and this is where the team building happens. Okay? If you give them time between when you finish the individual, even if it's on a time frame, and when they come to class, your top students will go look up all the answers. And then they will come to class, and they will say, well, I know the answer is A because I looked it up. And you miss any of that discussion and any of that learning from everybody else. And so that's why I don't recommend it. It is time consuming. I only have 50 minutes at a time, so one IRET TRET will take me the entire time with my clarification lecture and kind of summarizing and everything like that. So yeah, it's a time frame, but I do it 5 or 6 times during the quarter in 10 weeks, so it's not a lot of, it's worth it. I do not do it every day. Not at all. What was I going to say about that? Yeah. That's also why I was telling another team, I don't do any makeups. I don't do any ones early. I don't do anything like that because the learning is really in the class. And I also drop one from their grade. So if I do 6, then I only count 5. And that kind of takes care of this whole, I have a job interview, I'm sick, that kind of thing. So, yes.
So do you score it mostly individually, or do you include a group?
So in my final overall score, all the IRETs together, all the individual, about 15% of their grade. All the TRETs together are about 10 to 15% of their grade. I do a midterm, which is about 15% of their grade, and a final, which is 30% of their grade. So individually, it's very heavy on the individual. I tell my students, I don't know if I said this to everybody, I tell my students that if they do not pass the individual portion of the course, they do not pass my course. And I have failed students because of that. So very strong that there's individual accountability and you need to know it yourself, but come to class to help. Coming to class will learn. And what I have seen, and this is more where I see like between the top students and the bottom students, if you come to class and you do the work and you're learning from it, even if you don't completely get it in class, but you're participating and doing it, your individual score will be just fine. Like there's just you're fine. But if you come to class and you just kind of like, I don't really want to do this, I don't really care, or you miss lots and lots of class, then those are the students who are going to be at the bottom just automatically. And so it really is not, I don't like to fail people, but it's justified. So, okay, appeals. So what's different with the appeals with this is that not just, I think the answer is A, so you should give me the points back. And what did you say, that we were going to stay until I agree with you? Yes, so this is how the appeals work. That doesn't work. First of all, they have to identify an ambiguity, either in the question or the reading. Okay, so something that was ambiguous, something that they didn't understand because some ambiguity. They describe the source, and then they either need to provide an alternate alternative wording that eliminates ambiguity, hence helping me write my IRATs. Or provide page references and quotations of the reading. This is great, right? Because this is like, well, I really think the answer is B, so I'm going to go back into the reading and prove my point. They are just doing so much more learning than if they just took your word for it, right? The appeals process, they have to actually write it up. It has to be handwritten or typed. And it's only from teams. The individual can't do it. The whole team has to sign it. And it's only considered after class. I will not collect it until the next time frame. And so we are going to leave, even though I may not agree with you. And what I'd say about this is when I have gotten appeals in classrooms is that people's emotions are running high, right? They're like, I'm so upset that I got this one wrong. And it diffuses the whole thing, and we are able to move on to other things because I give them a way to appeal this. I give them a way that, and so only teams that appeal will get it. So if team 2 appeals number 5 and I say, yes, you got it, you guys get the points. Team gets the points, individuals get the points of the ones that you said. If we said A was correct, then everybody said A gets also the right answer or gets the points for it. Team 4 decided that it wasn't really worth our time. They don't get any points back just because yours was approved. So it's who does the work gets the points. So kind of how it is in the real world, right? So.
Correct answer, and everyone answered A, thinking it was equal, but the team answered B, and showed that it was B.
Right. 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 So if it's really a legitimate problem like that, then I will actually give it for the whole class. And at the beginning, I have had those where it's just so ambiguous, or there's 2 right answers. Then I will give everybody the benefit of the doubt. So that is the case. Yes. But if it's just we want to argue our point, then no. So the first time I write something, well, actually the most I've ever gotten in a class is probably 2 or 3 or 4. It really depends on the quality of your IRATs and TRATs, the multiple choice questions. I rarely get them now because I've redone them and I've fixed the problems, which is great. Another reason why I don't let them take the stuff with them because I'm doing that. And I'll kind of switch them up a little bit so it's not completely the same every time, just in case they've heard from others what kind of questions I ask or whatever. But I really haven't had that many, and most of them I actually will approve because they've done the work and they can show some reasoning behind it. So. I think there's only one I actually said no to, as because they used the wrong definition of density. So I was just like, no. So it was so far off into the left field that I couldn't even justify any type of reasoning behind that. Okay, but this is really a small part. We spent a lot of time talking about it, but it's a small part. Any other questions about the IRAP, the readiness assurance process? Okay. So the next part, and this is really where we spend the majority of our time, is doing these applications. So as in the reading, there's 4 S's, this significant problem, same problem, civic choice, and simultaneous reporting. Same problem is actually really easy because I give out the same one to everybody, so check. Significant problem, where I get these from, is I start with textbook problems and I just modify them to make them into civic choice and simultaneous reporting as necessary. Significant problem, I judge based on if I give them about 40 minutes to do it. Can an individual do it by themselves, yes or no? If the answer is no in the time frame that I want, if they need to work with each other, then I consider that significant. So it's one that in the time crunch that I give them, one person could not solve it. And how I do that get around that sometimes, if it's kind of an easier analysis, or I think they might be able to, one person, is let's say I have 4 different cycles and I want to know which one is the best. So they have to do 4 different analyses in 40 minutes. There's no way that one person would be able to do this. But if they divide it up and divide and conquer and check each other's work, then they can do that and then they can come to a decision. So sometimes I break it up where there's lots and lots of work to do, and the only way that they can do it together is to divide it up, work together, and conquer the whole problem. All right, so, and then civic choice is by making it basically an A, B, C, D kind of a thing. So the way I do that is which one is the best, which design is the best, which orientation would you want to put this, which shape is the best, what would be the most important thing. And sometimes I don't get quite the civic choice. And in that case, a lot of times our discussions happen around, or if everybody has a simultaneous report, everybody says the answer is A, and the answer is A. Okay, yay, everybody did the question right, they got the right answer, and now what do I do? Well, I want some discussion, and so what we will talk about is I will actually challenge them with it. Is that really the right answer? Why is it the right answer? Were our assumptions good? What assumptions could have been made better? What if we had changed one of our assumptions? How would have that changed the problem? And so we're working into there. I make the students talk about what reasoning they went back behind it. Sometimes my students solve them in different ways, and so I actually make them come up to the board and describe how they solved it, because if they solved it in different ways. So I still get that discussion with there. But the best ones will be civic choice. Teams will choose different ones, and when they simultaneously report it, they'll see that you chose A, B, and you're an A, and you're a C, and now what's the right answer? And we have a great discussion about that. So let's see if we can do that. We're just going to do the first one here, because we don't have forever and a day to do all these. So just look at number 1. And discussing your groups. And unfortunately, when I was packing yesterday, I forgot my voting cards. So my voting cards are beautifully done. They're laminated. They're color-coded by letter. And I forgot them at home in my office. So when we come to the voting part, you're going to pick a piece of paper and write your letter on it big so that when you hold it up, everybody can see what you've chosen. So I'll give you guys some minutes to talk about this. The answer is yes. So in true TEBL format, you must make a decision and it must be only one choice. Just number 1.
Just for example, if said one of the letters and I would not come to a conclusion, you just say then your team is wrong?
Well, I really say just pick one, and when it really has come down to that, and I've done that before, where like everybody needs to pick one, and so they'll hold it one. I'm like, okay, and then you can. What's your second choice? And so it kind of gives them an out. But then we're gonna discuss it. It's not like there is an answer, and then
They're not graded on these.
and they're not graded on. Some of them are graded on, and some of them are not. So if it's something like this, where clearly there's opinions and not necessarily one right answer, then those aren't graded, and they know that, and it's. But problem sets and sometimes. I like to do quite a few graded ones because it kind of helps with attendance. Because those students who are just kind of like, oh, well, she's just going to do like.
But you don't necessarily tell them.
I don't know which. No, no.
For the readings, have you ever used Perusal or?
No, I haven't. Perusal.
The MIT free version?
So my colleague has used that one, and I don't know the results of it. He did it last quarter. I think he found it interesting. I have not done that. I think it would be very interesting, but it's a lot of.
20-page things. Here's the 20 pages, do it, and then they can comment on each other.
Right. I love the idea, and actually, I saw a presentation of one of the guys who did it, who designed it at the TBS Learning Conference. Brian, yeah. Or was it him? Yeah, I think it was him who designed it, or I don't know, something. Anyway, but I loved it, but I just haven't been able to incorporate it.
Next term in 2
Okay.
classes, and I'm hoping someone here would say, no, don't do that.
I can ask my colleague real quick if he, yeah. I think it was okay. I think the only thing we were concerned about was like copyright stuff, because if like the students don't buy the textbook and then we just provide it for them online, and so we were really unsure. Oh, they do at Perusal. Okay. Oh, okay. Cool.
50 cents for selling a book, and
Yeah, we
$500 test.
We've had some issues with, cost of textbooks and stuff, and it's like, I tell my students to just go buy the $12 one from Amazon that's like 3 years old, and I'm like, I don't care. Yeah.
Exact same one for a tenth the price.
So, don't tell the other people I do that, but yeah. Okay, discuss this and then you can, yeah.
Work through everything and then you pick one of the options.
Right. Yes, yes, right.
So even the significant problems are multiple choice.
Right, and so the example of that would be on these here. So, so I'm making them analyze this power plant, but I say, what's the, rank these components according to this reason here. And I'll show some more examples. This one is, this particular thing doesn't work, so how would you fix it? What's the best way to fix it? And each of these, I think a couple of these don't work, but like 2 of them do work, and so you have to decide which one would be the best one based on efficiency and entropy reduction. And then this would be an example of one where there's no right answer, kind of discussion in there.
And does that match how they're tested, like on the midterm and the final?
The midterm would be just kind of like open-ended, like this part. I don't make it multiple choice. I wanted to see that they can do the whole analysis. So, and they know that, and they're used to it, so it's not like a jump for them. Like, right. The midterm and final are very traditional, very, and they do great on those, so because they know how to do that. So.
So for a question like this,
Mhm.
we're looking at,
Right.
I mean, I have no idea what even to eliminate. Is there a thought process we should be working through here, or is this a little bit artificial?
It's a little bit artificial to get you, yeah, right, yeah. So this is a little, and you guys are at a slight disadvantage because usually this kind of stuff is based on a much thicker reading. So you guys only had like a 4-page reading that you did in 10 minutes. So usually it's based on that. But what I would kind of think about is, okay, so this is, so first of all, you got to think about, what is an effective professional in their chosen field. So, for engineering, it would be different maybe for all of you, right? So nursing might be different, or medical. But like all of these are going to be helpful. And so just kind of thinking about like, you got to think like forward and then think backwards and then kind of like, well, what might be, and if it helps, there is no right answer. So, but the idea is that you would choose one. You would say, you know what, I think this is it for X, Y, and Z, and that you could tell the whole class why. That's the point. And that's why actually, yeah. And then just be able to justify it, right? And I do that with my engineers, and they're just like, I don't get this. And I'm like, you are in a meeting with your boss, and you say, this is the best design, and your boss says why, and you've got to be able to explain to the client or your boss why. And yeah, this is what the calculations say, but I want you to explain to me why the calculations say that, what assumptions you made, what process you went through, why you chose the equations you chose, that's what I'm looking for. And I will ask that a little bit on midterms and finals, like, I might say, like, after all this, explain, the significance of this, or, kind of thing, like, I'll, like, lead them through it. And so there's a little bit of that, but not, it's in class, though, so in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. How are we doing? Did we make a decision?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Number 2.
Well, we probably won't have time for number 2. Oh, we might, but that's fine. That's good. So you guys discuss it. All right. So you guys have any? You made a decision for one. That's all I want to know. Yeah. So make a sheet like on one of the back of yours. Write the letter or letter big, not on the back of that, because I use that other stuff. Those are actually from my class. All right. You guys got it. Did you guys figure out an answer?
We're tied right now, so
Okay, so I'm going to give you guys about 30 more seconds to make a decision.
let's do 2 first.
No, we're doing number 1. We're only doing number 1. We could talk about number 2 if more people have talked about it. That's okay. We probably won't have time for it.
We're chatting about what to do in our classes.
Oh, yeah. I know. Are you starting semester soon, or are you?
My semester started yesterday.
Oh.
Without me.
We started last week.
Yeah.
So.
This is what better. Like, not being there for the first 2 days of class is kind of weird.
Well, I left after my classes yesterday, and then I don't have class on Tuesday, and so I'll be back tomorrow morning. So it really. So, but for this particular time. Wow. Yeah.
Nice.
We're saying, how many times during say a 15 weeks? Are you guys on?
We're quarters in 10 weeks.
So how many times in the 10 weeks?
You said 6, right?
6?
Yeah, about 6. Yeah, I've done up to 9 with them really short ones, where it's kind of like IRAT, TRAT, 1 day of applications, but they've been really short like modules. 8, I've done 8, which is okay. I really like 6. I'm doing 5 this quarter because of the way it works out that I have only 5 topics that I really need to cover. So, but I really like 6. I think 6 is because it's almost every other week, but not quite. So it.
And you kind of do it before start, or like at the beginning.
At the beginning of each unit, yeah. So, and I only do 1 per unit. So, so then I'll sometimes assign homework that then do the rest of the unit. So, so like they got their pre-reading, and then I'll assign small homework sets to be due like by the end of the module. So I like to, if I assign homework, I like it to be all due before the module ends or on the last day, so that the next module they can completely focus. There's no like overlapping where like I gotta get the homework done and do their pre-reading. Like I don't want them to have to choose between doing the pre-reading or finishing the homework.
So the time between doing the different modules, you spend all that time in the classroom?
Doing applications, doing these problems. Yep. Yeah, so most of it is spent doing applications. And I will get through only, 1 a day, unless they're really short. But 1 a day is about all they can handle.
Lecturing on helping with the application?
I do. So a lot of times after the IRAT, TRAT, I'll do like actually a whole lecture just on like examples. So I'll just do some examples. And then what I like to do is like the first 5 minutes of class, I like to kind of give a review, like this is where we're at. I use a toolbox analogy, so a lot of times I'll put up the toolbox again and we'll talk about all the different types of tools that we have, all the different types of equations, maybe some special, case type stuff, and then I'll hand it out. And sometimes I'll kind of like, okay, they read it and they're like, okay, how do we get started? Which tools are we going to use to start out with? They do it, I walk around, we talk about it, and then they finish it, and then I will do like a summary kind of, like I never just like give them the solution. Then we kind of talk about like, okay, this is what we did, this is why it's important, kind of a thing. So that's kind of the process that I do. And so if the whole class is just lost, like if I've gone around and I usually have 6 or 7 teams, and like half the teams are stuck in the exact same spot, then I actually will go to the board and I will like maybe write up and I just kind of get them past that point and then like give them another question to go back and think about. So what I've noticed for myself, that if I'm in a workshop doing things and the person in charge asks a question and expects us to think about it but then just gives us the answer, it really doesn't give me any motivation to actually come up with my own answer or like think through their problem. So I really try to not give out answers or that they might know, but I really like, I'll spend like, sometimes I'll actually lecture, I'll go like maybe 3 different teams and I'll go through the same thing with them, like, a PV diagram or whatever. And so, but I'm only lecturing to like 5 students. And so it's really like this one-on-one, and they get to ask questions. And I think that helps better than like the big class and they're just like lost in the background, so. I don't. I only have 36 students, though. I have relatively small classes. I had 42, and that was really tough for me. I'm a very personable person. I like to go and talk. My colleague, I substituted for him, and I surprise all the students by like sitting down with them and their teams and stuff. So I don't think he does it as much as I do. So it really is I think on a personal level. My mentor, he likes to have about 10 teams. He thinks is about like the sweet spot is like 50 to 60 people, and he thinks that works really well. And I don't think I think they have more time and they do it a little bit. It's a little bit more. They're in Canada, so it's a little bit different, and they've got different blocks kind of stuff. But for me personally, I like about 6 teams for what I do. My colleague is doing it with 183 freshmen, but it's all like intro to engineering stuff, so it's not technical at all. And so the questions are more like this kind of stuff where you don't need to like answer individual questions and like how to calculate stuff. So
Yeah, I'm just thinking a lot about like how I would use this in like calculus class. And one thing I want them to learn is to like show their work.
Right, yeah. that's the tough part I do have with that. So I have classes that are a little bit higher level, so the showing of the work, they've kind of got that ingrained in them already, so it's not as bad when they come to me, but yeah, that's a tough one. Which then might be helpful to have like homework and stuff, or maybe you pick somebody to come up and show it on the board, and so it kind of, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, I found that the sweet spot is about 5 people on a team too. So I've done 4, which is small compared to there. But for a lot of calculations, 3 or 4 actually is a little bit better. But then that just, the number of teams that I had to get to just really exploded in my mind. And so for me, 5 is like the sweet spot, that it's small enough that everybody really feels like they can contribute and do the calculations, and it's large enough that I only have 6 or 7 teams, and so I can actually get to all the teams and talk to them. And like I really love like just pulling up a chair or like the desk and just like sitting down with them, but like, I'm part of your team now, and like let's talk about what's going on. And I ask them questions, and they talk to me, and they're like, is this right? And I'm like, what do you think? And they're like, oh. So, but it's getting them to work through a process, right? So, okay. All right, we really got to talk about this one. Okay, so we're going to, at the count of 3, we're going to hold up your piece of paper, A, B, C, D, or E, and then we're going to discuss it. So 1, 2, 3. Just hold up. So is that a D, an A, an A, and an A? So 3 A's and a D. Okay, so here's how I usually do this. Everybody seems kind of consensus of A. But I'm actually going to skip talking about that one right now. First, I'm going to ask you guys, why not B or C? Why not? B is too limited. How so? Okay, so faculty is not necessarily important in the field or your teammates. Right, okay, so that's too limited there. Students don't come back to you. All right, why not C? Somebody else. Could do that on your own. We don't need team-based learning to figure out lifelong learning skills. Independent lifelong learning skills. Okay. What about the beginning with the too difficult to assess? Okay. All right. Okay, because we do make them do individual stuff. So, what do you think? Okay. Well, is that important in their professions in their chosen field? Okay, nobody chose E, so why not E? Learning to accept constructive criticism through peer evaluation process. Why not?
There doesn't seem to be a strong feature of this.
Okay. So let me put a caveat. You are right. We have not talked a lot about the peer evaluation process. Part of that is because the 4-page reading that I gave you didn't talk about it. But if you were going to TBL literature, it is a huge part of it, okay? And we're going to talk about why it's big. I have a slide on that as well. But one of the reasons it is important is because this is one way to turn team accountability into individual accountability, and that your peer evaluation score adjusts your team score for you individually. So if you are a stellar student and your teammates give you all top points, maybe you get a 5% bonus. But if you're a student who kind of comes late, not as prepared as much, then maybe you get a 10% actually reduction on your score. So there's one way actually to eliminate the people who just slide by, which is really students complain about, and to also let those students who are the top students know that those students who try to slide by aren't going to get away with it. So that is actually a big part of it. Another big part of it is that if you are in nursing or in the medical fields, all my colleagues who do team-based learning and are in those fields, they spend so much time doing is learning how to give and write reviews because they have to do that in their jobs all the time. So actually peer evaluation for them is one of the most important things. So it's closer to B. Okay. Well, you still have to learn how. So I could change B, though, instead of saying accountability to teammates and faculty, to say accountability to your colleagues and clients. Right. Would that make it more true for you, though? Would it have changed your mind? It might have. Okay, so let's go to A and D. Talk to me about A and D. Why A, why D, why not the other one?
A seems like super specific to team-based learning. That's not something you can do if you're one of those lone wolves who like to figure out the problems.
All right, so my vision when you say that is some computer scientist who's like working in the closet by himself, right? Typing, right? So now you're making them get out and actually work with people and talk to people. All right, other thoughts on this? Yes? Okay. All right, so developing skills in solving complex problems. So in this case, right, it's ambiguous on purpose, different than the other one. What skills are we talking about, right? This skills with solving complex problem. Maybe those skills involve working with people who have diverse backgrounds, skills and knowledge. Okay, other reasons.
Well, one of the things you said in your little lecture
Mm-hmm.
was that team-based learning team motto of the medical field and engineering, where you have to work in teams.
And actually,
Like that
right.
might have been, one of the focuses.
Right. Yeah. So I'm sorry if I said that. That's not what I meant. Or let me give you a slight background. The guy who actually started it was actually in business, and he decided he wanted to do it because he went from a 40-person lecture to a 400-person lecture or 200-person lecture, and he wanted to still get this really good discussions going. And so he's the one who actually did it. It is big in medical fields where teams are important. Pharmaceuticals, nursing, it's getting bigger in engineering. More and more engineers are using it. Law schools use it, partly because being able to stand up and defend your answer. All right, being able to make that argument kind of thing. So, and then in humanities, it's also growing speed, and then sciences and stuff. So it's taking speed there. All right, any other answers, thoughts on this one? What's the right answer? All of the above, right? So in this case, there is no right answer. I think it really depends on how you define effective professionals in their chosen field, right? So chosen field could vary based on that. All right, as I pointed out with some of it. Okay? So who wins? No, everybody wins this one. Well, if we did science by majority, then it would be A. Okay, so going into that, peer review is important. And I just want to talk briefly about it. If you go on, it's teambasedlearning.org. Their website has a lot of resources on how to do peer review and different options. So one option is CatMe. If you've not heard of it, it's an online option. I use CatMe, but it's very impersonal. But one way to do it would be assign bonus points to each teammate or have qualitative statements to each teammate. One of my favorite ones that I've seen that I've not done because it takes a lot of training to do, and I've only got 10 short quarters, but they do in medical school, is where they actually have to write something good and something basically good and bad about each person. And they actually are graded on how good they write and what they write. So part of the grading is you being able to give the criticism and give that. And what the kind of statements they're looking for is that I wish that what's your name, sir? Mike would speak up more because he's got really good things to say. So this kind of constructive criticism, or it's really disturbing to our team when Mike walks in late. So that kind of So it's learning how to do that. But regardless of what you do, two things are important. Is I do it twice in the quarter. You need it twice. Some people do it 3 times in a semester. But that's critical that the first time, partway through, it's formative and doesn't count towards the grade. This is so they can get feedback. Are they doing good? Are they not doing good? What could they be doing better? Kind of gives me also a range, like a read on the teams. I spend 3 times a week with these kids in these teams. I know which teams are having problems because you can see it, but it's kind of nice to get it kind of either confirmed or maybe nobody's even talking about it, so I'm just not going to worry about it. And then the second time I do it at the end of the quarter, and it's summative and it counts towards their grade. And so they basically got 2 times to do this, 1 to practice and 1 that's for real. I do an adjustment on their team grade. So basically, CatMe gives me a score out of 1. 1 means just basically average. Above 1 means over and above. They get a little bonus points on their team score. Usually they don't need that because if they're doing that, then they've got the individual stuff down and they're doing fine. But it's kind of fun to see that they got a 1.05 and that they were a really stellar teammate. And then I've seen in the 90s, 0.9s kind of thing. So if they're just, not wanting to show up or they don't participate as much. So that's actually pretty rare. So So it's a little bit here, and a lot of this is on the PowerPoint sheets that you can take home. Students prepare for class, so I have a survey, basically that yes, they prepare for class, they feel accountable to themselves and to the TBL courses. So 93% of students feel accountable in the TBL courses, so they're actually preparing to come to class. Do they enjoy working in teams? These ones are positive ones, obviously, but they do. I've gotten some great feedback back from my students that the way it's set up is really helpful, that they feel like they can contribute to the team, they feel like they're learning from the team, they're learning to trust each other in a way that's different than some type of design course or a project or a paper that they're writing, right? I don't require my students to meet outside of class together as a team. Do to study because they've learned the benefit of that, but I don't require that outside. And unlike some design course or like a project or a paper, the product is not some artifact. Like, I'm not looking for a paper that can be divided and conquered, and you write one paragraph and you write the intro and you write the conclusion. What the product I'm looking for is the learning in the class. And so by doing it that way and by engaging my students, I'm looking for their learning, and they may not get it right in class. Like, they may walk out being like, our team as a whole got it, but I wasn't quite sure. And I will see those students in office hours. They will go back through the applications, they know the answers, and they've written stuff down. So I see them like working through it again. Effective in-class activities. The biggest thing here is that I have a survey that basically measures TBL versus lecture preference, and consistently we get 70, 80, 90% of students who show TBL versus lecture preference in all our classes. So that's kind of fun, and that they say they remember the stuff better than before. So as a big summary here is there are 4 essential elements to remember. So Dr. Larry Mickelson, who designed this, he gets kind of upset if people decide to do parts of team-based learning and not the whole thing, and then they say it doesn't work. So if you're only going to do parts of it, please don't call it team-based learning, call it something else. But if you do all of them, then he doesn't mind this. So again, properly formed managed teams, right? The diverse teams on the large side. If they're diverse and you give them really good problems to do, all this management is done internally by the teams and is not done by the professor at all. I have never had to interfere with any team whatsoever. The closest I got was that a couple students dropped, and I had a team that went down to 4, and all my other teams had 5, and that team came to me and said, we feel like we're missing something because we don't have any more teammates. And I actually took them and I redistribute them in the other teams, and they came to me afterwards and they said that was the best thing I'd ever done. So that is the only time I've interfered with team dynamics. Getting the students ready, so this whole readiness assessment process, right? The pre-reading or pre-assignment, the IRAT, the TRAT done together in class with their teams, the appeals, and then this clarification lecture. Applying course concepts through these 4S applications. And I have a lot more examples that I can show you if you're interested. Just shoot me an email and tell me what you're kind of interested in or how you might do something. I can kind of give you ideas. And then making sure the students are accountable, including this peer review, is important. And part of that is this individual side of things, but also making sure that when they come as a team and they get this team grade, that they're proud of the work that they're doing as a team. It's why I like putting the scores on the board. Like, immediately you guys are like, well, which team got the most points? You guys did, right? Like that, you guys felt good about that as a team. You're working together, you're building this team. I also make my teams come up with a team name at the beginning just to kind of get some camaraderie going. As with anything, as you guys are probably learning this week, is selling at the beginning is one key to success. I actually spend 2 whole sessions selling it and talking it. We do a practice IRAT, TRAT. We talk about grading. We talk about all this kind of stuff, what's going to be going on in the class. I walk through how to use all the tools that I give them, so they just don't feel high and dry. So resources here. You can email me. That's my email address at the top, jpeuker@calpoly.edu. It's on the handout as well. If you want to sign up for my email list, I don't really send out too much, but it's got some questions in there if I want me to send me something or to send me an email. I do like to forward on to people information about the conference, or there's some conferences in there. There's one big one every year, but there's a couple littler ones around the country. of like just TBL 101 around here. So that's actually at the end, this TBL annual conference or meeting. It's in Albuquerque in March. I think it's one of the best conferences I've ever gone to. It's 2 days of workshops, everything from being a novice to expert. I have seen the people who are the authors of of these books here participate and go to and say they've learned something from the workshops. So I will be there in Albuquerque. So I think it's great. They're all of the workshops are actually given in team-based learning style. Surprise, surprise. Can't get away from it. And one of my favorite things is going in the, they send out all the pre-readings beforehand. You sign up for the workshops, and they send out all the pre-readings. And they're much longer than the 4 pages that I gave you. And then my favorite is like watching these, like, very qualified doctors and nurses and faculty members in the, sitting around the hotel and in the elevator, like, reading, and they're like, have you done the pre-reading? I haven't finished the pre-reading yet. So it's kind of just like, okay, hey, we're all like, right? So these are the 2 books I have here if you want to look through them. Team-based learning is called Transformative Use of Small Groups in College Teaching. It's edited by Larry Mickelson and a couple other people. And D. Fink, who does, he's famous for something else. I forget now off the top of my head. I'll think about it. Having significant things in your classroom, significant learning resources. So if you've not heard of them, they're interesting. So this is one, it's a little on the older side. It's a combination of different papers that cover different aspects of team-based learning. And then this one, which is just published in 2014, it's called Getting Started with Team-Based Learning by Jim Sibley and Peter Ostafich. They're both from the University of British Columbia. Peter has done over 10 years in engineering on that side of things, and Jim Sibley has been doing this for about 20 years as well. And this is a great another resource on just kind of how to get started, some more logistics that aren't in this one, but will give you ideas. And it actually even comes with an IFAC card, which I have other ones if somebody wants to take one home and show their colleagues. The other thing is this team-based learning collaborative. You'll get membership to it, which gives you access to example modules. If you're not one of the mainstream, if you're not in the medical fields and some humanities, it may not be as beneficial for you for the example modules, or it'll just give you resources, other resources. But the main thing I would say is if you're just kind of interested and you kind of want to have some questions, even if you don't want to post any questions, is to join the listserv. It's free. And basically people they send their questions, and some of them are great in that you're like, whoa, I totally had that problem too. And people just respond with questions and answers and stuff. And then sometimes it's a question like, hi, I'm doing a new course in this. Does anybody have any materials? And what I've seen with the team-based learning people is that they are the most open set of faculty I've ever come across with and work with, that they will hand over all their course materials to you and say, get started. And it's really quite amazing. And if you go to the conference too, like I would have breakfast with somebody and I'm like, this is the problem I'm having. And he would just be like, oh, I had that problem too. And he would just like, it's a good resource. So I think with any flip style that you're doing or whatever you're doing, if you're doing flip classroom, team-based learning, whatever, find a support group at your university. Find other people that are doing it, because stuff will go wrong and there will be frustrations, and to have that support network is critical. I'm really lucky that I have my colleague who's also my husband, that we both do it. And so to be able to go home and be like, this is the problem I had in my classroom, and for him and I to kind of work out what's going on and how to fix it is critical, I think, with any kind of new teaching technique if you guys are doing this for the first time, anything you do. So that's all I have. I guess you guys are supposed to